It's been a year since 2K tried to breathe life back into the game they themselves choked the life out of. And while it had some pros for sure, for many they did not outweigh the cons. Now everyone's question is, of course, is it better than WWE 2K22? The answer is yes. Does that mean anything to those that weren't impressed with playing last year's outing? Well, that depends. If you liked the previous game, then yes, this will undoubtedly scratch that WWE itch. If you didn't like the previous game, then chances are this one won't win you over either. So if you enjoy 2K22, go out and buy this one if you haven't already. Have a blast and steer clear of this review, because you're probably not going to like everything I'm about to say. Let's start with some positives, because there are actually quite a few, believe it or not. Don't worry, I'll sprinkle in some negatives here and there, so hear me out. It looks better, and phenomenal at times, honestly. A lot of attention went into the models again this year, with many having improved significantly. Gunther is a prime example of this. Some are still awful though. Otis, for instance, is a different person, despite the face being scanned. His beard is noticeably absent, the body is completely off, and his actual physique is one of the reasons of his popularity. The Enforcer Solo Sikoa is surprisingly skinny this year, completely losing his imposing physique. Andre is the same as last year, which means it's god-awful again. Same goes for Batista. They had some good young faces for other superstars like Randy and Brock that look great, and I assume Andre will be in the next 40 games, so make some effort once and be done with it for a console generation or two. While some faces like Randy's and Brock's got the youngling treatment, surprisingly enough the cover star did not. It's, with all due respect, old face Cena with young Cena attires. Might as well start with Showcase mode. Last year's was a nice attempt, but sadly lacking in variety. This year we get to step in the shoes of not the cover star, but the opponents that managed to pull one over on ya boy. It's surprisingly original and very much needed to combat the monotony that plagued the game before it. And while the idea is novel and, let's be honest, good, the execution is an area where 2K unsurprisingly is lacking. The video packages leading up to the fight are well done and entertaining, but once in a match, things take a turn for the worse. For one, there is no commentary. Now I get you can't have Joey Styles, JR, JBL, King or Taz on the mic, but that shouldn't stop 2K from using current commentators. We'd all get it, understand and be fine with it. Now we got silence. Long silences. Almost makes you appreciate Michael Cole. Almost. What we do have is music. Now I love a good tune during a beatdown, and some of these are actually quite good, if the loop wasn't 30 seconds long. And some matches can take up to 10 or 15 minutes or more. What will we be doing in those 15 minutes? Simple objectives. Do some damage here, Irish whip them there, grapple him, so forth and so on. While Rey Mysterio narrated certain parts of the match to fill up that silence, what we get here is an objective in text, supposedly in Cena's words. That's all fine and dandy, but a lot of times you're asked for a specific move, which forces you to go to the pause menu, look up the match objectives to find what the move is and where you can execute it. This takes up a lot of time and often requires you to check multiple times during a match, which ruins the flow you are in. And let's not forget the match itself. As per usual, the gameplay transitions into archival footage every now and then, and they can be quite good a lot of the times, although some are rougher than others and show severe coloring differentials. Like here, I expected an orange Triple H. Did not get that. No, what we do get is watching painfully long sections of a match because animating these is too expensive. Once again, I get that, but a cut to the important sections of the match could have solved these annoyances. In the Triple H match, I spent close to 3 minutes with a controller in my hands, watching footage without any commentary whatsoever, waiting for a transition. To their credit, once you finish it all, it ends with a reward you won't see coming. But it was hardly worth the effort. Play through it once, never touch again. By the way, if you have the Supercharger download or whatever it's called, you still have to play through this mode to unlock everything. Now, unlocking is not something I mind, I actually do enjoy that. But there were some people on social media that were disappointed with it. I just wish that was my only gripe. We continue. The biggest addition this year is War Games! Now I admire its inclusion. Its execution has lived up to its 2K expectation, which means debuting without creativity. How so, you ask? Well, it has two noticeable things that show any creativity on 2K's part. One, this little rope hop. Two, the arena and how it's presented. Personally, I found it jarring at first, seeing the cages behind the crowd instead of near the entrance ramp, but I get it from a gameplay point of view. But why is the door on the left instead of where it's supposed to be and for everyone to see on the hard cam? Competitors from the right cell can move from the other side, right? And it's even more weird because the double cell is basically two steel cages without the center wall. I mean, that's how it plays. Apart from the weapons, it's the exact same. No fancy moves off the corners or anything. It's been on NXT for a few years now, and with the announcement of the match in the game, we all expected similar moves to be performed. Well, I didn't expect anything, knowing 2K's track record, but I assume a lot of people did. It's a fun match, sure, but so much more could and should have been done with this. And that's it for new matches. Not even the f***ing special referee match is in. Dude, how hard is it?
Give me what I want!
Now the matches that are available to us, how do those play? Well, this may surprise you. But they play exactly the same as last year. Perhaps a little fine-tuned. And by fine-tuned, I mean it all runs a little smoother. The ridiculous breaker system is once again in play, having you guess which move the opponent is doing. This applies to combos, grappling moves, running moves, corner moves, ground moves, everything. No button prompts are shown afterwards. Only if you guessed the right button will you be awarded with the display of the button you just pressed.
Glorious!
Playing it casually against other players on the couch with a few beers is fine, but when playing it competitively, it's annoying as hell, especially when you're playing online. Button bashing is pointless as it's entirely time-based as well, so not only do you have to guess the correct button, you also have to time it perfectly. This makes it very difficult for new players to jump in and understand the basics. Add to that the reversal, block and dodge mechanics, and this game is, despite what 2K wants you to believe, very beginner unfriendly. They did add a new kick-out system where you flick the right stick up to kick out, but you can still change it to last year's button mash mechanic if you so prefer. Running SIGs and finishers are still a four-finger affair.
Oh my.
Irish whips are still the same distance and its rebound attacks are still awkwardly timed. The HUD looks a little different, but other than that it's virtually the same. They added some interactive elements to the backstage brawl match this year. There are a few cars that let you injure your opponent's hand and whatnot.
Oh, that hurt. Don't worry, it'll buff right out.
And you can still throw them off the scaffolding, this time into the bat signal or whatever, which is kinda cool, but it really should end the match. or at least stay down for a longer time. Au contraire, by the time you climb down the ladder, the opponent is already up. The area is the same, but at least they updated it a little bit. Played it once, forgot it existed shortly after.
Mashed him into the door. And no, not with the cardboard.
I don't see them getting up after that.
And with good reason. That brawl had shades of downtown Austin at 2 a.m.
Normally, I enjoy a rumble or two, but the glitches in this match made it a lot more difficult to enjoy this time around. At one time, at number 28, nobody showed up afterwards, leaving Big E here to taunt endlessly in the ring. Sure, he deserves the spotlight a lot more than he's gotten on television before his injury, but this might be pushing it. If you hated last year's gameplay, you won't suddenly be delighted this year. At times the initiation prompt didn't even appear, so I just got my ass kicked without a chance to do anything but take the beating like a chump. And even in most cases where it does work, pressing random buttons in the hope of maybe countering something never appealed to me. When skill leaves the room and luck takes its place, my patience tends to run out quickly. I don't mind learning new mechanics, there's a certain charm to getting good. But there is no such thing in this game. It's mostly luck based. And this might be fine for casual gamers or those that get a controller shoved in their hands at a party, but when I want to relax and play a game, I no longer choose a wrestling game for that purpose. At least, not one of the recent ones. One mode that had potential to be great for relaxing and arguably the biggest letdown last year was My Faction. And you'd be shocked with surprise to hear that this is still the case this year. This mode has 0 improvements, unless you can count playing online against other people in improvement, because this can also be done during regular online play. Last year had a lot of criticism for being a slog, a grindfest, and doing nothing for the main game itself. In a rather shocking turn of events, this remains true this year, and then some. The grind is yet again tedious, but after one chapter I had enough. Not because I bought some useless VC for ridiculous prices, hell no, but because this mode drained the soul out of me. Not only is there an over-reliance on multi-man matches, they made every match even worse. How, you ask? Well, blocking is constant on Legendary, which is the only way 2K can make the game harder. Even if your blocking and dodging game is top tier, the damage you get from getting blocked or reversed yourself is enough to eventually put you in the danger zone. But that's fine if that's where the annoyance ends. But no, wait, there's more! Performing finishers or signatures is useless if the opponent is not stunned. They will counter it every time, from the top tier stars to the lowest of jabronis. One time beat down to stunned status into finisher or sig and pin? Sounds easy enough, right? Wrong. To make the mode last even longer than it already feels, pretty much every opponent now has the resiliency perk, which grants them an automatic kickout. In multi-man matches, everyone seemingly gets up a lot quicker as well, and even something simple as submitting someone in a 4-man anywhere fall match seems impossible at times. It's been since last year's My Faction that I was cursing as foul as I was during this year's installment. Well, at least you're not doing everything for nothing, right? Wrong again, because this year you still can't unlock any outfits for modes outside My Faction. This was one of last year's many, but arguably biggest critiques. For some reason, 2K still didn't deem this necessary enough to add this, besides it being one of the most obvious things to do to extend the longevity of this mode, not to mention revenue. This mode can easily be used to remedy the ridiculous out-of-date gimmicks that are currently in the game. For instance, Nikki Ash has returned as Nikki Cross late October. Making her a new character to unlock in My Faction and subsequently in every mode outside of it would make some people upset, sure, but it would get more engagement in My Faction and would actually justify its existence in a bigger and better way than it does now. Same goes for Cora Jade. The game launched with her as the skateboarding goody two-shoes, even though she turned heel in frickin' July. You had 8 months, for f***'s sake. I know she was still a face when they recorded her in My Rise, but an updated character would be cool to unlock in my faction. Dabakato, Piper Niven, Giovanni Vinci in his Imperium re-debut at Clash at the Castle from September. Baron Corbin in his October return, Dijak from November. Sure, some are a bit late to add, but October and certainly September should be possible. And that's where my faction could circumvent these issues. Oh well, maybe someday. Luckily, there are those heroes in the creation community that do 2K's work for them. Might as well segue into the creation suite. I actually have some good things to say. The creations look better than they ever have. Last year was an improvement, but this year they took it to the next level. And good thing too, because like I said previously, a lot of the attires are severely outdated. Dominic still has his good son attire from early September. Austin Theory has no beard. Nobody online seemed to care about this, because community creations will once again do 2K's work for them. Must be nice. Even simple things like Damian Priest's eyeliner are missing, but again, nothing the good folks at 2K Community Creations can't fix. Laziness or time constraint issues aside, the tools that are available, despite not being anything new, are easy to access and modify, and the results look great. Aside from maybe wanting 1 or 2 more attire slots, really nothing bad to say for once. Create an entrance though is something else. You can modify different parts of the entrance this time, being absent from the previous game. To me, it caused issues where certain parts would just be grey without adding any screen effects. After 20 minutes or so, I gave up on fixing it entirely. Previews don't work, so you have to select it to see it, which makes it take even longer to find what you need. Pyros are in there too, with some working better than others. It's not there yet, but nothing that can't be fixed in the sequel. Unsure if it will be though, with 2K's track record, but I'll do my utmost best to try and remain positive. Yeah, not gonna happen. Despite having augmented reality for a few years now, 2K has yet to implement these during entrances. Last year's DLC, Sayali, had it, creating wishful thinking it would be in this year. It is not, however. My bet is if you add the existing superstar designs, you must also add generic designs for created superstars, and that costs time and money. Maybe next year. Honestly, I'd be surprised if they ever add it at all. Create an Arena and Show are also back, although I didn't see any changes, and if there are, they're not big enough to be noticed. I did notice you couldn't place logos on turnbuckles for some reason. The Arena screen effects are back with varying degrees of success. I tried the VHS filter on my Arena, and while it was passable at best last year, this year there are these weird lines throughout the picture. Never mind then. Why not have a few options or sliders to adjust it to your desired result? I want it a little blurry, maybe slightly pixelated, with some oversaturated colors and a subtle glow. You know, create that 80s aesthetic. Maybe next year. Creating a show is still as limited as ever, especially when it comes to color schemes. In most cases, the designs for one category is something completely different from the other, making a consistent art style very difficult. I know buying stock footage isn't the cheapest, but it would be nice to have some updated options after 8 years. Switching to a point of positivity is that after 7 years, we can finally import a created character into the story mode and eventually export it upon completion. I'm not even going to give them credit for that. I'm just not annoyed it's not in this year. Anyway, story mode then. We actually get 2 stories this year, one for the female side and one for the men. The voices are either hit nor miss, just sitting awkwardly mediocre in the middle somewhere.
I was fine, and I'd be even better if you stopped using me to get yourself over.
Wow. You want to hear some real talk? I saw myself in you when I watched your debut, but you and I are in different leagues.
The quality of the spoken voices is at times horrendous. For instance, this is not Liv Morgan.
I'll talk to you how I want right now. You just spoiled the match for all of us. Don't expect this to blow over with the SmackDown women's locker room. The Raw women are gonna rub this loss in our faces for a long time.
They pulled that shit one time with Cena and it didn't go unnoticed. And neither will it this time.
You gotta see this guy who's blowing up on the indies.
But another example, Cora Jade. Not only is the outfit outdated, as previously mentioned, the spoken dialogue sounds like it was recorded during a phone call.
Yeah, I loved watching old clips of your aunt on the network when I was growing up, but it was so cool when you debuted at Survivor Series and made it your own. I'm all about that.
Would have been cooler to win. What are you doing at SmackDown? NXT 2.0 doesn't take up enough of your time?
Just doing some photo shoots and a little press. Honestly, it's been nice to be backstage at a show where I don't have to keep a lookout for toxic attraction. Not that I can't stand up for myself, but it's exhausting.
They better put some extra effort into it next year, because most of it is quite embarrassing. The WWE superstars themselves do a decent job this time, but its main drawback is the writing. It's not as bad as last year's, but it can hardly be called good. A definite improvement is the removal of the face and heel missions that decide whether they want to be a good guy or a villain. There's a bit more variety in mission matches, from the way they're told at least, with most of them having short cinematics. Most of it is told through social media messages. Some can be somewhat entertaining, but you can't be blamed for just skipping through them after a while. If the voice work won't force you to, the incredibly subpar facial animations definitely will. It's in fact so jarring that I often miss the conversation entirely, focusing mostly on whatever this demon monstrosity animatronic really is.
Didn't go exactly as I planned, but lucky for me, you don't even know how to cheat right. And now, everyone's talking about the victory I claimed over little Justine.
The main stories are where most of the effort went to. The female side has you play as a niece to a Hall of Famer, and the male story has you follow the path of a superstar destined to be the face of the company, called The Lock. I fucking hate this whole precipice. This lock to be the guy and the company shoving it down your throat is exactly the reason why Roman Reigns was hated for 5 years. Luckily, this is addressed eventually, but playing through this first part was a chore. There are a few branching paths like joining Evolution or the Hurt Business, but they play out the exact same. Whether you're in Evolution or the Hurt Business, jobber Gabriel joins either way. For some reason, money, 2K decided to make up their own characters to interact with you. And that just pisses me off. I don't want nobodies from the 2K verse or whatever. No Gabriel, no A-hole Cole or Baron Blade. Just actual superstars. Having these fictional characters is fine if you only place them in parts of the stories where you travel on the independent scene or at the Performance Center or even in NXT. But I don't want them on the main roster, where they detract from the overall experience. Actually, I think I would appreciate them a lot more if 2K didn't have the WWE license but still made wrestling games. Shout out to my video. The supposed Legend Justine character from the Legacy story is awful to look at and listen to. And I really wish they just hired a WWE legend to voice the majority.
What can I say? I draw ratings.
That being said, Molly Holly was so serene, at times I almost wanted to recruit her to fight the Reapers again.
Good, because you won't be. I'm going to level with you. Backstage sentiment is not good right now. You may be a SmackDown superstar, But you've got an uphill battle if you actually want to be on the show.
Aboard the ship. I have seen the way your crew looks at me. They do not trust me. But I am not like Benezia. I will do whatever I can to help you stop Saren.
Anyways, most matches here still have the tendency to add objectives in the match, like damage a certain amount or Irish whip in the corner, and then promptly end the match with a cinematic. Luckily, it doesn't happen as often as in 2K22, but it's still an annoyance. Worse yet, some matches still cause you to fail if you do too good of a job. This was an issue in last year's game, and surprise surprise, it still is today. Getting punished for demolishing the competition is absolutely ridiculous, and being forced to take a few hits before actually doing some damage yourself to avoid this is moronic game design. The stories themselves, however, are mildly entertaining, so it is a nice distraction and will keep you busy for a few hours. It's a shame that the execution leaves a lot to be desired. Maybe next year. By the way, me and MVP are on the same wavelength here. Battlegrounds doesn't count. Like, ever. Happy to know they agree with me for once. One thing I must give 2K credit for, or at least the voice actor for the lock, at one point he gives an angry promo in the ring.
Let's be real. I haven't had the best run lately. You all heard and saw the endless hype. I was brought in to WWE as the next big thing, a future world champion. And of course, the lock. What I'm saying is, I was set up to fail by WWE management. And especially VP of Talent Development, Shawn Michaels.
And I gotta say, this might actually be the first time in a WWE game, even pre-2K, where the person in the ring actually talks like he is in a full arena addressing a lot of people. Most of the time it sounds like it's recorded in a booth or a hallway, but this was actually quite good for a change. I thought I'd end the segment with a positive note. Last year's biggest hype mode was the return of the forgotten and often requested General Manager mode, and for once, they actually improved upon it this year. Sure, the bar was set laughably low, but nevertheless, they outdid themselves. We are blessed with triple threat matches and even fatal four-ways, tag and second tier championships, and a lot more shows to choose from. The mode is also a lot longer now, so most players can enjoy multiple years if they so desired. The rest is mostly the same though, apart from some extra Hall of Fame goals and Slammy awards at the end of the season. But that's not the issue this time. What is still an issue is the same class matching synergy system. I didn't like it last year, and I still don't now. Matching bruisers with fighters and giants with cruisers and adhering to the synchronicity rules is still the meta to winning GM and really goes against any creative booking. There are specialists you can throw in these classes, but that's really a band-aid. A sync classes option would be nice for next year's game. Let the algorithm sort it out. Besides these small improvements, I did enjoy it a lot more than last year's attempt. It has a long way to go to reach its full potential, but it's the most fun mode yet. Staying on the positivity train for just a little bit, they added something I thought they never would. AI scalers. Glorious! Regrettably, these can only be adjusted in custom superstars, but it's still a nice addition. Especially for people like me that enjoy watching the game rather than actually playing it, this is most welcome indeed. Regrettably, there are still no alternative camera views during CPU matches, but one addition at a time is surely what they were thinking. Universe mode has been improved slightly. Especially for content creators, there are a few things to appreciate. You can now set the outcomes and cutscenes during rivalries, which is a welcome touch. It's no creative story, but it'll have to do for now. Furthermore, it actually mostly works this year. Now I've read some complaints on social media that managers have glitches and multi-person entrances bug out every now and then, but I have yet to experience anything major. I should also point out that I was bored rather quickly with this mode. Besides there being cutscenes, there are no promos that connect the scenes together, or any other verbal dialogue. To me, there is no drive to keep playing the mode, but I could understand if other people that create their own shows do. For creators like, for instance, Goran Perkins and others like them, the improvements are a godsend. I'm happy they added the cutscene choices, as I enjoy the creativity these creators put in their work. I, for one, will not be putting much time in actually playing it. To each their own, I say. So here we are. I played a lot of this game in this past month. I waited this long with the review because, frankly, all websites post their reviews after a few days of play. This was a problem with last year's game as well. And like last year, initial impressions are good. And again, the more you play, the less there seems to have been changed. A lot of the problems that plague 2K22 are still present here, albeit in a lesser capacity. Bugs, glitches, the pointless underutilized my faction, egregious microtransactions, outdated attires, undercooked matches, missing matches, obviously held back modes like GM, so it can be improved next year, horrible weapon detection, missing entrance AR, weird budget limited showcase presentation. Speaking of presentation, the menus are slick and beautiful. Keep those. That's the one thing you don't have to change. Now, it might seem like I have complained a lot during this video. And I did. The game has improved, but in my opinion, too little. The breaker system I will never accept, as I truly believe it is faulty in every way, from idea to execution. Get this luck-based nonsense out of here. I honestly don't understand how people can enjoy it, and that nobody is frustrated or even annoyed by it. Must be nice. There are positive things to say about this year's attempt for sure. Apart from the horrible VO in the My Rise mode, I did have a fun time playing through it. Personally, I'd enjoyed a lot more had I more choices. I wouldn't mind having the VO removed entirely in favor of branching paths towards championships and storylines and choosing a manager to accompany me, akin to the older titles like Shut Your Mouth and Here Comes the Pain. I know I sound like a dinosaur when harkening back to ye old games of the past, but they were revered and beloved for a reason. As it stands now, this game is not as good as I want it to be. Far from it, in fact, but better than it was last year. I've accepted the combo systems, although I prefer quick grapples and an Irish whip that I don't have to be in a grapple state for, but I've come to terms with that. It's a lot more enjoyable to watch AI versus EI, with the sliders giving more accurate personalities. But with it comes the lack of camera options to take it to that necessary next level. GM mode is better and actually enjoyable, but withholding certain options like triple threat title matches feels like a scummy way of holding out in favor of next year's version. Props go out to the Creation Suite, as it has improved the greatest deal. But with it comes the disappointment of the Create an Arena and Show editions. It seems for every step forward, there's always a step back in 2K's attempt. I clench my teeth every time I see 2K flaunting review headlines like the greatest wrestling game ever created, which is
bullshit.
It is certainly the greatest wrestling game 2K has ever created. But it's still a far cry from an actual great game. That's why I think posting a review for a game like this should be a few weeks after launch, to prevent situations like this. Because, again, 2K lucked out once more, Having the most casual of gamers post a review after 2 days of playing and being impressed with graphics and overwhelmed by initial options, which will result in a review most favorable. There hasn't even been any mention of the lack of information on the game itself. Have people already forgot that initial news regarding gameplay and features were revealed less than a week from launch? That was not an accident. 2K knew that the only thing added was the Wargames match, and even that was bare bones in its execution. 2K continues to get free passes on all of that, but not by me. You have certainly improved, that's for sure, but I won't go as far as believing 2K23 is even stronger. A better tagline would be a little stronger, or perhaps not as weak. In contrast to what you might think after all this, I'm feeling very generous, and I give it a 6.5. Now this review was very negative, but you don't have to be. Like the video if you enjoyed it, comment down below on all the things you agreed or disagreed with, and if you are feeling very generous, elbow drop that subscribe button to fuel the hate train on everything 2K related. But hate and genuine dislike is not all I have to offer though. I have a few videos praising the games that came before, both wrestling and other genres, so by all means take a look. Thanks for watching and have yourself a great day.